Hello, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. You can find me on YouTube and Patreon by looking for Drew Duncan Radio. And do not forget that I'm wherever you're listening to podcast. Simply tell your device to play Drew Duncan on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple, wherever you're listening to podcasts, I am there. Forgive me for being a little almost sounding disinterested right there. I mean, obviously, usually I give a whole little spiel and, I've got music in the background and all kinds of other stuff, but I really just don't think that this moment calls for it. There's been a lot since the passing of Kobe Bryant, right? I mean, Gigi, the other 7 members on that plane, just a lot of youth, a lot of big names, a lot of tragedy, though, more importantly. Do you understand? Look, for those who know me, know that my 2018 was hellacious. Started with the passing of my grandmother. I lost my job at an ESPN affiliate. I lost my 18-year-old brother. I lost my aunt. And I lost my dad. All from May until December 27. 2018 was an absolute nightmare for me, for my family. My brother, he died in a work accident. We still don't really know what happened. The only thing that we can really surmise is that some big piston basically fell on top of him, about 450 pounds or so, and there were just no zones, there were no cones, there was no training involved, and from what I was told by other people who have been involved in OSHA, they always say, unfortunately, a lot of code is written in blood, which is horrendous to think about. And he was only 18. It was his first ever job, and basically they had him doing something that he had no experience in. Supposedly, the area that they had him working at, usually there's like 4 or 5 guys out there at a time. There's no cameras for whatever reason, and for whatever reason this day, it was just him and another guy. His liver exploded, lacerations everywhere, broke. It was just a mess. It was a nightmare. It was on the news. And then, of course, when OSHA did their investigation, which took about 6 or 7 months, they announced it on the radio, and you have to constantly relive it, right? You're always just reliving everything. And that's the hardest part. And for, a guy who was a megastar like Kobe Bryant, I think it's even more complicated for his family because he's everywhere right now. And there's a petition that's happening to get the NBA logo changed to Kobe Bryant. The Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, he came out and he said no Maverick is ever going to wear the number 24 ever again, period. There's been interviews that have been done. We've seen Shaq crying on television. Shaq Diesel crying on TV. Because pain is pain. Doesn't matter how big you are. Pain is pain. And now, there's a kind of like a Twitter outrage that's happening with a recent interview with Kobe's now widowed wife. And, I've been doing journalism work for 6 years. I've been in radio about 9. And, I just really think that the issue that we come across in today's society is we simply do not let the dead rest. And we don't let the people who are grieving grieve. The people who grieve sometimes become addicted to the attention. I've seen what death does to people firsthand. You know, I've seen it make good people suddenly bad. I've seen it make bad people suddenly good, and everything in between. And the life lesson that I learned from really everything, you know, was to tell the ones you love that you love them. And when I see all this other stuff that's going on, you know, the petition, the interviews, my whole thing is I think everybody just needs to take a break. I think we in the media need to take a break. I think the families need to take a break from the media as much as possible. I think that they need time to recover, recuperate, reload, recharge. This is not something that you're going to get over in a week, in a month, in a year. It's going to take so much time. And there are days that all I can think about is my brother. There are other days when I still think I need to call my grandma and check in on her. There are days when I want to go and see my dad so I can get some advice. There are days when I feel like I need to go and visit my aunt. There are days when I wonder what my brother is doing, and then I realize he's not here. And then there are other days where you just hide it. And that's the thing. It never goes away. It just gets easier to deal with. And life moves on, and we continue to do things that we love, or we go to work, or we raise our kids. It all is what it is. I mean, some good has come out of this. You know, the girl-dad thing, or the dad-girl thing, I think is very cool. But now, to me, is not a time for anybody to really show off. I know we're trying to think of something positive out of this. You know, it's so difficult. And, you know, that's why when I did this thing, you know, when I did my little deal on it, you know, on Monday morning, I didn't use hashtags because it's not that time. It's just not that time. It's not a time for hashtags. It's not a time for everybody's feel-good speech. It's just a time to let people grieve. It's a time for people to grieve, and it's a time for the dead to rest. It's awful what happened. Awful things happen in our world, and sometimes I don't think that we necessarily know how to deal with them. You know, the day that my brother died, you know, it's just one of those, you're never going to forget it as long as you live. You know, I woke up. There's a voice message from my mother. She's screaming and crying. I call the hospital to find out what's going on. They say, we're going to call you back, or the doctor is. I make a phone call to my best friend, to a friend where I'm living at, and maybe 20 minutes go by. I get a call from the priest. I'm like, why are you calling me? Do you not have good news? He goes, no, I don't. And I mean, you know, we just need to let everybody grieve. People need to let themselves grieve. They need their families right now. They just need to hold on to each other. Because right now, that's what you have. The ones closest to you the most. So, for anybody listening to this, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And in the words of the great Jerry Lawler, like I said at the beginning, don't let a day go where you don't tell the ones that you love that you love them, because death comes for us all. It does not matter your color, your creed, your religious preferences, or otherwise. It just doesn't matter. It comes for all of us. And 9 times out of 10, we're just not prepared. And it's the shock that destroys us. I'm Drew Duncan. You guys take it easy.